So I smoked for about a decade. Started smoking in grade 8, and I smoked cigarettes all the way until I was about 24, 25. I'm 33, so I quit about 8 years ago. I think that's right. And in the last 8 years, I've probably had like one cigarette, and it was very recently after I quit smoking. But other than that, I've basically been cold turkey. Quitting smoking literally was one of the best things I have ever done in my entire life. More athletic, happier, healthier. I truly believe that having vices and addictions like smoking hurts every level of your life. It hurts your mental health, it hurts your relationships, it hurts your business. Most people that I know that are really crushing it in the areas they want to crush it and feel like they're really succeeding are not smoking cigarettes. I thought I'd never be able to quit because it was something that I truly enjoyed doing. Like, I actually liked smoking cigarettes. I liked all of those things associated with it. I liked smoking when I was working on a film set or working on a play, because I used to do a lot of theater and there were a lot of smokers around there. So that's, how I would get into it. Basically, I'd stop smoking and then I'd be around smokers and then I'd start smoking again. And I liked holding it in my hand and the whole process of just doing it. And I didn't even realize how shitty I felt when I was smoking, because you're doing it all the time. So it's hard to know actually how it's affecting you. But once I decided to quit, and there were a lot of reasons why I decided to quit. One of them was because I started exercising more and I really wanted to know how far I could push my body if I wasn't smoking. And then the other reason is I just had this vision of myself and who I was going to be, and I knew that that person wasn't a smoker. So if you feel that way, if you're like, I'm smoking right now, but I don't think my future self wants me to smoke, or I don't think smoking is going to be something that I continue doing in my life, this is how you quit. The first thing you do is you need to stop identifying as a smoker. That is the biggest piece of advice that I could give you, and it will make it so much easier to quit smoking. Because when you are quitting, what most people say to themselves and other people is, oh, I'm trying to quit right now, or I quit smoking. If you just quit smoking, the chances that you're going to smoke again are really high. What you need to do is stop being a smoker, truly deep inside of yourself and how you identify. And you may need to find other things to identify as instead of that. For me, because I was going to the gym at the time, I was like, I'm going to be an athlete, and athletes don't smoke, and therefore I don't smoke. It's this idea that you're a smoker or that you smoke that keeps you smoking cigarettes. So the very, very first thing to do is stop being a smoker. When people offer you a cigarette, don't say, I'm trying to quit. Say, I don't smoke. No thanks, I don't smoke. That was huge for me. Now, obviously, there's those moments when you're outside. The first time I was sitting on a patio and I was outside with my friends and I was like, oh, I really want a cigarette. Like, I don't even know if I can be outside without smoking. I don't even know if I can, have a conversation with someone without smoking. Because a huge part of fun when you smoke is going out and having a conversation with people and being like, oh, we're going to have this conversation and we're going to have our cigarettes, right? So those were the moments where I felt most triggered to start smoking again. And so the second thing that I did, on top of saying like, I'm not going to be a smoker anymore, is stop thinking that quitting is hard. I told one of my friends at the time, who was a big advocate, and he really pushed me to quit, because he was like, yo, you cannot smoke, dude. I believe in this and I know you don't want to smoke and all these things. And I was like, oh, but it's so hard. And he was like, well, that's part of the problem. It's not hard. The fact that you think it's hard is what's making it hard. And I was like, damn, you're so right. After that, my perspective completely changed on smoking. I just started to say quitting super easy. And not only was quitting easy, but it went completely against my identity of not being a smoker. So why would I smoke if A, I'm not a smoker, if A, I don't smoke, and B, quitting is super easy? Those two things together were everything, because what people don't understand about cigarette and nicotine addiction is that you're only partly addicted to the nicotine. The nicotine is like 1/10 the addiction that the process of smoking is. So the more places that you smoke and the more times you associate smoking, whether it's drinking a certain friend, or driving in the car, or going to a cottage, or when you get home from work, or when you go on break from work, that's the addiction. So the hardest part, and you could argue the easiest part, but the hardest part, the part that's going to feel the hardest, is when you're doing something where you used to smoke and then you don't no longer smoke, because that's where the addiction really happens. And it's called, what's it called? I think it's called circumstantial addiction. And it's this idea that most of our addictions actually have to do more with circumstances and dependencies of those circumstances than they do the actual biological chemical response that you're having to something like a nicotine. The next thing I did was I started journaling really intensely. I started journaling every time I wanted to smoke. I'd start writing down all the reasons why I wanted to smoke and all the thoughts and feelings that I was having. I'd say things like, I'm lonely right now. I'm drunk, or I just miss the connection, or I feel left out, or any of those things. Like, start to really identify, like, what are those triggers for you and what thoughts and feelings are associated around the craving. As you write those down, they lose their charge. And that was very powerful in terms of helping me quit. And the last thing I'll say on this is get non-smoking role models. Most of the people around me in my life also smoked cigarettes. As I made more friends that didn't smoke or had quit, I got more empowered and inspired to be a non-smoker. I was started to be around people that didn't smoke. And that's what proved to me that just because you're sad doesn't mean you need to smoke. Everyone gets sad. Just because you're feeling like you're an outsider and you need to think about all this stuff in your head. A lot of people feel that way and they don't smoke. So we know that you are completely capable of living a life smoke-free. And those were the core things, whether it was a celebrity, a friend, that made me feel like, okay, I can do it. I can be a not smoker and I can find a way to be happy without this. When I put all of those things together, I quit. It's been almost 10 years. I never see myself going back. I couldn't even imagine a scenario in which I'd be like, I'm going to start smoking again. That's how powerful this shit is. Have a great day wherever you are, and I'll see you in another one.